Good morning and welcome to the Sunday service. This morning we're going to meditate few minutes or maybe more than few minutes. Today Reverend Kusala is supposed to give a Dhamma talk, but he cannot do today. He went somewhere else giving Dhamma talk. So I talked to the Subodha to take care of today's service. So Subodha is going to give some talks and chanting and meditation both. Subodha, you can start your program right now.
All right, everyone, let's get into a comfortable position. Close our eyes. Begin with 3 deep breaths. And now let's develop thoughts of goodwill, loving kindness, metta. And these are more than just thoughts. These are skillful and wholesome intentions that we have for ourselves, that we have for others, for true happiness, true peace in our hearts. And so beginning with ourselves, we might say internally, in our heart, in our mind, may I be happy. May I be peaceful. May I be free from stress and pain. May I be free from suffering. May I live with heart and mind unburdened by greed, by aversion, by delusion. May I look after myself with ease. And then we expand these thoughts to include our family, our friends, our teachers, our loved ones, all those near and dear to our hearts, all those that we respect and admire. And for them too, we wish them happiness and peace. May they be free from stress and pain, free from suffering. May they live with hearts and minds unburdened by greed, by aversion, by delusion. May they look after themselves with ease. And we extend our goodwill further to our acquaintances, those that we don't know so well. May they also be happy, peaceful, free from stress and pain, free from suffering. May they live with hearts and minds unburdened by greed, by aversion, by delusion. May they look after themselves with ease. And we also extend our metta, our loving kindness, our goodwill to those that we don't get along with, to those that we don't like so well, to those that we might have difficulty respecting or admiring. For them too, may they be happy, peaceful, free from stress and pain, free from suffering. May they live with hearts and minds unburdened by greed, by aversion, by delusion. May they look after themselves with ease. If all of our hearts and minds were free in this way, developed in this way, then we could all live in admirable friendship with each other. So it's with that in mind that we spread our goodwill, our loving kindness, our metta in all directions. To the north, to the east, to the south, to the west, above and below, to all sentient beings everywhere. May they be happy, May they be peaceful. May they be free from stress and pain, free from suffering. May they live with hearts and minds unburdened by greed, by aversion, by delusion. May they look after themselves with ease. And so with our hearts and minds uplifted with the metta that we've cultivated, with the goodwill that we've cultivated, let us now turn our attention to our breath and our body. Breathe in and breathe out, mindful of the breath in the body. Ardent, alert, mindful. Try your best to set aside greed and distress with reference to the world. Bring your attention right here and right now to your body, to your mind, to your heart, and to your breath. Become aware of the quality of the breath, whether the breath is long, whether the breath is short, whether it is deep or it is shallow. Become intimately aware of the quality of your breathing. And you might ask yourself, what kind of breathing right now would be the most gratifying, the most easeful, and see how the body responds. See if prompted in this way, your body breathes in a way that is satisfying and easy to stay with. Easy to be here, right now. You might feel the breath most strongly in a particular place in the body, the tip of the nose, the chest, the abdomen, the shoulders. Wherever it is you feel the breath most strongly, make that your home for now. Make that your refuge, where you come back to time and time again as the mind wanders, knowing that each time you come back to the present moment, that you come back to your breath, that you come back to your body, that is an act of mindfulness, developing mindfulness, strengthening the mind and training it, building foundations for deeper states of mindfulness and concentration. And as you sit here meditating, I'll give a short impromptu talk. Whatever I say, keep the breath as your main focus. If something I say is relevant to you, let it come in. If it's not, just keep your attention on the breath and continue meditating. One of the things that we often hear as meditators is that we're trying to train our minds. Sometimes we understand that to mean that we are learning to not have any thoughts, that we're trying to silence the mind. But the very act of sitting down to meditate is often trickier than that. Many of us live very busy and distracted lives. And so when we finally do make time to sit down and meditate, we often find a mind that is very chaotic, very busy, very active. It seems as if the mind is bubbling and frothing sometimes, or just distracted and scattered. It's hard to stay in one place and one time. You might feel as though you can't even locate the mind at all. Where could it possibly be? And so if you approach your meditation thinking that you're training to stop thinking, you might be disheartened to realize that the mind is so active and so busy. Something very helpful to keep in mind is that the Buddha instructs us in terms of not turning the thoughts off, but in cultivating and becoming connoisseurs of the kind of thoughts we are developing. Certainly in the initial stages as we meditate, we're very much learning how to talk to ourselves. And so as you're sitting here, developing, learning how to stay with the breath, you might find that there are thoughts in the mind, that the mind is not inclined to settle down. See if you can see what's happening in your mind. What kind of thoughts are coming up? Can you do that work, that training, that activity that the Buddha recommends? To look at your thoughts and see which ones are appropriate to the moment, which ones are skillful, and which ones for the time being are unskillful. And for those ones that are unskillful, can you set them aside? Choose not to pick them up. Choose not to be identified by them. To not take them on as I or me or mine. To not immediately grasp and cling and take possession of them. Can you let them go? And for those right now that do seem skillful, that are inclining the mind towards the good qualities you're developing, towards skillful effort, toward skillful mindfulness, towards skillful concentration, skillful views and resolves, can you for the time being identify with those? See those as the kind that you want to cultivate, that you want to develop. The kind of thoughts that encourage you, motivate you, inspire you towards the practice, towards staying right here and right now with your breath, and using the breath to bring your mind down into your heart and down into your body. Cultivating the kind of thoughts that gladden the mind, that uplift it and make it light, unburdensome. What kind of thoughts might that be? That's not the kind of thing that anyone can provide an answer for you. This is the part that is true insight, because it's insight into your own mind, your own heart, where you need to look, where you need to see, where you need to perceive and cultivate, develop. So as we meditate, don't be afraid of thinking. Rather, see what kind of thinking you're willing to do with your time in meditation. See what needs to be set aside. See what needs to be cultivated. And see what your skillful effort might do in that process. So with that in mind, continue to meditate on the breath. Continue to meditate on the body. Continue to bring yourself right here and right now to this moment, this place. Everything that you're trying to understand about yourself, and everything that you're trying to cultivate and bring to fruition in your heart is right here and right now, not anywhere else. Bear that in mind as you continue to focus on your breath, to make it your home, to make it your refuge. Continue to meditate in this way until you hear the bell.
Sadhu, sadhu,
sadhu.
sadhu. I think we can chant now page 4 and page 8. So after that again 10-15 minutes meditation.
Is it okay if I go over this with everyone first, Bente? I wanted to say a few things, if that's okay.
Yes, sure, sure.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to start on page 4, and I wanted to do this a little differently than we usually do it here at IBMC. Before we start with the chanting, I just wanted to first convey in the Buddhist traditions why we chant this, right? If you notice that we also provide the English translation, I think it's useful to look at that first before we begin chanting. Notice that we begin with homage to the Buddha, homage to the most holy, most noble, completely awakened one. And then we have there the 3 refuges. I take refuge in the Buddha, I take refuge in the Dharma, I take refuge in the Sangha. And it's important to keep in mind that as Westerners, when we're learning Buddhism, that we shouldn't get confused with this practice as the kind of worship we might give a god or a deity. In fact, when we're giving our homage to the Buddha, we're revering him as a wise and skillful and amazing teacher. And it's his very qualities that we're keeping in mind as we pay homage to him. And as we take refuge, notice that we take refuge in the triple gem, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And we might confuse that with only the external aspect, thinking that we're only taking refuge in the Buddha as a living being, the Dharma as his teachings, and the Sangha as a community of monks, but also the Arya Sangha, those that have tasted the fruits of awakening. But there's also an internal aspect of the refuge that we take on, an internal gem that we might say lives in our heart and our minds. That as we're chanting this, we're not only taking refuge in an external aspect of the triple gem, but also an internal one. Meaning that when we take refuge in the Buddha, we're recognizing that the Buddha, before he became the Buddha, when he was a bodhisattva, was someone developing and striving, trying to find release from suffering, and had the potential to do that. And so what we're taking refuge in also is our own potential to find release, to find nibbana, to find unbinding. When we take refuge in the Dhamma, it's not only the Dhamma that we study, that we memorize, that we hear, but it's also the truth that we realize within our own hearts, that when we look inward, the Dhamma also exists in our heart and mind. If you think back to the instructions I was giving during meditation, it's this idea that as we turn inward, that's where insight truly lies. So the Dhamma is also there in our hearts and minds right now. The Sangha is not just the noble disciples and great disciples outside, but also that quality within ourselves to be worthwhile, admirable disciples of the Buddha ourselves. And so with that in mind, I want us to then chant together. The other thing that I find really beautiful about chanting is that chanting is one of the ways that we gladden the mind. That was one of the things that came up during meditation this morning, which is how can we gladden the mind? And one of the activities we can do is something we did at the beginning, which is developing metta. Metta also gladdens the mind, raises the mind up, uplifts it, makes it light. But also chanting in this way, especially not when we're just saying the words, but reflecting on what they mean. And not just what they mean in translation, but what they mean to us inside. And so I want to do a longer form of this where not only do we say the homage 3 times, but we also take the refuges 3 times. And so this is traditional within most of Buddhism, but certainly within the Theravadan tradition, where we go through Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, and then again Dutiyampi through Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, and then Tatiyampi through Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. So I'd like to try that out because we don't usually do that here, but it's something that's done in most temples all over the world. So I'd like to give that a shot if that's okay, Bhante. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang saranang gacchami. Dhammang saranang gacchami. Sanghang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Tatyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Tatyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Tatyampi sanghang saranang gacchami.
The page 6.
Page 8,
Page
Prajnaparamita
Yes.
Heart Sutra.
Mahaprajnaparamita
Heart Sutra. Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, when practicing deeply the Prajnaparamita, clearly saw that all 5 skandhas are empty and passed beyond all suffering. Shariputra, form does not differ from emptiness. Emptiness does not differ from form. Form then is emptiness. Emptiness then is form. Sensation, perception, volition, and consciousness are also like this. Shariputra, all dharmas are marked with emptiness, not born and not dying, not stained and not pure, not gaining and not losing. Therefore, within emptiness there is no form, no sensation, perception, volition, or consciousness, no eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, or mind, no form, sound, smell, taste, touch, or dharmas, no realm of sight, till we come to no realm of consciousness. No ignorance and no ending of ignorance, till we come to no old age and death, and no ending of old age and death. No suffering, origination, extinction, or path, no wisdom and no attainment, with nothing to attain. Because the Bodhisattva follows Prajnaparamita, the mind has no hindrance. Having no hindrance, there is no fear, and far from all fantasy, there is dwelling in nirvana. Because all Buddhas of the 3 times follow Prajnaparamita, they gain complete, perfect enlightenment. Therefore know that the Prajnaparamita is the great holy mantram, the great bright mantram, the wisdom mantram, the unequaled mantram, which can destroy all suffering, truly falls. So he gave the Pranya Paramita mantram, which goes Gate Gate Paragate Parasumgate Bodhisoha Gate Gate Paragate Parasumgate Bodhisoha Gate Gate Paragate Parasumgate Bodhisoha. A few more minutes of meditation before we chant the rest. Okay, let's once again get into a comfortable position. Let us reflect on the words we have just chanted, those that we know through translation and even those that we do not. Reflect on the skillful qualities of all the beings who have chanted these same words over the centuries. Think of them as skillful brothers and sisters on the path who are beside you as you say these words, as you cultivate what they have cultivated. Be uplifted by participating in what they have done, the training that they have done, the skillful qualities that they have given fruit to in their minds and hearts. So gladdened this way, let's return once again to the breath. When we return to meditation, it can be helpful sometimes to breathe a little more deeply at first to see where we are sensitive to the breath. And then settle there once more. Sometimes going from activity to stillness makes us all the more sensitive to the stillness that is naturally there in the body. See if you can use that as the foundation for deeper stillness as you return to the breath time and time again. Before we end our meditation, think thoughts of goodwill, loving kindness once more. Think back onto any feelings of peace or happiness you felt over these 2 sessions of meditation, and dedicate them to others. Either someone specific you know right now who is suffering, or to all sentient beings everywhere. May we all find peace and well-being in our hearts. And with that, let us open our eyes.
We chant the page
10.
10. After that, we are going to chant the Pali chanting also.
Sentient beings are numberless. I vow to save them all. Deluding passions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them all. Dharma gates are limitless. I vow to study them all. Buddha's way is supreme. I vow to attain it. May suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and the sick find health relief. When ye do konga duk phokap punya te nadang du chung sang e gai kong hai ba da. When ye do konga duk phokap punya te nadang du chung sang e gai kong hai ba da. When ye do konga duk phokap punya te nadang du chung sang e gai kong thai pha da. Om Mani Padme
So before we start the Pali chanting, just I want to make few announcements. Next Sunday, Reverend Chandasara is going to give a talk. Basically, Sai Maharjan is supposed to give a talk, but he's not in the city. He's going, I think, Chicago somewhere for the conference. So in that case, he's not coming this next Sunday. Reverend Chandasara is going to give them a talk. So right now, Ratan Sara and myself, we are going to chant a special Pali Sutra. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. ඉතිපිසෝ
භගවා අරහං සම්මා සම්බුද්ධෝ විද්‍යාචරණ සම්පන්නෝ සුගතෝ ලෝකවිදෝ අනුත්තරෝ පුරිස ධම්මසාරති සත්තා දේව මනුස්සානං බුද්ධෝ භගවාති ස්වාකාතෝ භගවතා ධම්මෝ සන්දිට්ඨිකෝ අකාලිකෝ එහි පස්සිකෝ ඕපනයිකෝ පච්චත්තං ඒති තබ්බෝ විඤ්ඤෝ හේති සුපටිපන්නෝ භගවතෝ ශාවක සංඝෝ උජුපටිපන්නෝ භගවතෝ ශාවක සංඝෝ ඥායපටිපන්නෝ භගවතෝ ශාවක සංඝෝ සාමීචි පටිපන්නෝ භගවතෝ ශාවක සංඝෝ යදිදම් චත්තාරි පුරිස යුගානි අට්ඨ පුරිස පුක්ඛලායේස භගවතෝ ශාවක සංඝෝ ආහුනේයෝ පාහුනේයෝ දක්ඛිනේයෝ අංජලි කරණේයෝ අනුත්තරම් පුඤ්ඤක්ඛිතං ලෝකස්සාති ඒතේන සච්ච වච්චේන සොත්තිති හෝතු සබ්බදා ඒතේන සච්ච වච්චේන සොත්තිති හෝතු සබ්බදා ඒතේන සච්ච වච්චේන සොත්තිතේ හෝතු සබ්බදා භවතු සබ්බ මංගලං රක්ඛන්තු සබ්බ දේවතා සබ්බ බුද්ධානුභාවේන සදා සොත්ති භවන්තු තේ භවතු සබ්බ මංගලං රක්ඛන්තු සබ්බ දේවතා සබ්බ ධම්මානුභාවේන